Namaste. Vanakkam. Welcome to Integral Mathematics session. We have started this series a couple of months ago, and in last session we spoke about Prakriti and its 16 Vikaras. So basically what we are doing is we are counting all the things that exist and we are sorting and differentiating it. We are not getting into probabilities of what consequence they have, but today we will discuss it a bit. So today's session we will just do a quick recap for 5 minutes to understand what we did in last session about Prakriti, and then we will move on to today's topic, which is Purusha, which is the counterpart of Prakriti. So we basically go at the beginning of creation, and what we are discussing is Sankhya philosophy written by Kapila Muni. Kapila Muni is known to be somebody who is born with the knowledge. He has this innate knowledge about everything, and he has kind of laid it out in Sankhya philosophy. So he talks about every single thing that affects human life in evolution, because he talks mainly about the process of involution. So we will be speaking about Kapila Muni's Sankhya philosophy. Then we will draw some parallels, and we will point out some mentions from the books written by Sri Aurobindo. And slowly, as the sessions will progress, we will get more and more into the work of mathematicians, how it exactly is the expression of Sankhya philosophy, or maybe something more. So how we can connect mathematics, today's modern mathematics, to spirituality, or all the questions, existential questions that we have, and we are looking answers for. So we will try, that's the purpose of these sessions. So in the last month we spoke about Prakriti, and this is the chart that we discussed in detail. So I'll quickly give a recap. Prakriti is something that is unconscious being, and it consists of something that is avyakta. There are huge characteristics of that, but today we will just have a broad, we'll summarize it. So avyakta is a state of equilibrium for Prakriti. What do I mean by state of equilibrium? There are 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, and they exist in equilibrium in the state of avyakta. And then something happens. It's called a cosmic vibration. In Sanskrit there is a word for it, we call it spandan. So when that spandan happens, that first cosmic vibration causes a slight disturbance in the equilibrium of these 3 states, and it releases these 3 gunas, rajas, tamas and sattva, from its dormant state or inactive state, right? And then we move on to something called vyakta. Why? Because think of these 3 gunas as 3 friends sleeping in one room, right? Sattva, rajas and tamas, they are inactive, they are dormant, and some cosmic vibration causes one of them to wake up. It releases one of them, and the first friend who wakes up is rajas, because rajas is a quality of movement and power and restlessness and passion. Out of the 2 friends who are sleeping, one is a light sleeper and one is a heavy sleeper, sattva and tamas respectively. So rajas tries to, that's his characteristic, that's his quality. Once he wakes up, he can't let everybody else in peace, he has to do something. So he goes and he moves, try to wake tamas up, but tamas is a heavy sleeper, so he moves on to sattva. If you are in a room and if you are a light sleeper, you are definitely the one to be woken up next by the disturbance, and that's exactly what happens to sattva. And the interaction between the rajas and sattva gives birth to mahat, which is the buddhi, or intellect as we say it. And then 2 of these friends, wake up the third one, which is the tamas. And that interaction, so from mahat arises ahamkara, right? Now, this ahamkara is not an ego. We talked in detail about ahamkara last session. It's very different from ego. It's the quality of ahamkara is it's the I maker. You know, I am, I do, you know, that kind of. So rajas acts upon sattva and manifests mahat or buddhi. What is buddhi? It is the material counterpart. We call it as understanding or reasoning. And then, but it also means mahas. It comes from a word mahas, which also means light. Function of buddhi is, you know, reasoning something, so whether you're certain on something and then acting upon it. We have a word in Sanskrit for it, we call it adhyavasaya, right? And the function of buddhi, then which springs ahankara, which is the cause of I maker. It causes modifications in buddhi in terms of I am, I do this, I am this, you know. Its function is to think with reference to itself. It, you know, to make assumptions to things with reference to itself. That's your ahankara. And that is the substance cause in which all the vasanas reside, and then it gives rise to vikaras. Now what are vikaras? There are 16 vikaras. So when ahamkara interacts with sattva, it gives rise to 11 indriyas or senses, out of which 5 are buddhi indriyas, senses of cognition. Your eye, your ear, so everything which helps you make sense of the world. Your eyes, your ear, your nose, your tongue, and your skin, which we learn in school, the 5 senses. Then there are 5 senses of action, which helps you act upon, you know, and these are your hands, your feet, your speech, the way you speak. It's excretory organs or your organs of generation. And then everything is controlled by manas, which is the 11th organ, which is the 11th indriya. And it has only 2 functions, assimilation and differentiation. And that happens when ahamkara and interacts with sattva. But when ahankara interacts with tama, it gives birth to 5 vikaras out of 16. So these are 11 vikaras. The rest of the 5 vikaras are called tanmatras. These vikaras, they come with this order, starting from sound, touch, form, flavor and smell. Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa and gandha, which transforms into 5 gross elements: ether, air, fire, water and earth. And this whole drama is Prakriti, and that's what we talked about in last session. Now, but the question arises after discussing the whole vikaras, which is the 5 buddhi indriyas and gross indriyas, because then, but Prakriti is ajna, right? It is non-intelligent, it's unconscious being. Then why is it doing all that? Why does it need to? It does not therefore exist or energize for its own sake. So all this is that is happening, it's happening because of that one spandan, one cosmic vibration. Now the question is, where is that cosmic vibration coming from, right? And why that one cosmic vibration is resulting into so much, right? So Kapila Muni says there must be someone else of different nature, something that is absolutely unlike Prakriti, which is not produced by Prakriti itself. It's something extremely independent of it. Some intelligent being, because Prakriti is the dormant, non-intelligent counterpart. And all this is happening for his benefit, or for his experience, or for his freedom. All of this activity. And that is what we are going to discuss today. Something that is jna, something that is knower, something for which Prakriti is undergoing through all this manifestation, transformation, and that is Purusha, and that is today's topic. Yeah? So Kapila Muni, so the book that we are learning about is basically a conversation between Brahman who comes to Kapila Muni, and he has a lot of questions to ask, and he really wants to know the real truth, and that's when Kapila Muni is now in a process of defining 25 tattvas, out of which we learned 2 Prakriti and Vikaras, and the third tattva is Purusha. And the Brahman asks him, Athaha kaha Purushaha? What is Purushaha? What is soul? And Kapila Muni says, Purushaha anadihi. What is Purushaha? So Purushaha is anadi, without beginning. Sukshma, it is subtle. Sarva agataha, omnipresent. Chetanaha, intelligent. Agunaha, without qualities. Nityaha, it is eternal. Drashta, observer. Bhokta, intelligent. Akarta, non-participant, or here I have written not an agent, yeah, which it's a huge discussion, by the way. Kshetra vidaha, somebody who is knower of the body. Amalaha, pure, something without absolutely absence of any impurity. Aprasava dharma, somebody who does not produce anything, and these are the characteristics of Purusha. But Brahman is not satisfied. He goes ahead and he asks him a lot of questions. He just started, but just I'm going to take a pause here, and I'm going to bring your attention to a little bit of mathematics here. It's very interesting to me. When I was reading this, it brought my attention to numbers, and one of the number which possesses most of these qualities is number 0. And for me, if I have to visualize or understand Purusha, it's something that is, if you understand qualities of number 0. Now, when I'm taking mathematics sessions to children, we always start with the shloka. And that shloka goes, I mean, most of you must be aware of it. We always chant this shloka whenever we have puja or any homam at home. And the shloka goes, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. It is the quality of number 0. Now the symbol of number 0 is very beautiful. First of all, Aryabhatta did not invent number 0. We say that Aryabhatta is the one who gave us number 0. That's not there. Aryabhatta mentions it in his book, but number 0 has been before that, because it is mentioned in Sankhya philosophy and it has been there before. It's very interesting symbol, because if you draw 0 perfectly, you start at the same point and you end at the same point. It is empty from inside, but yet it is complete in itself, right? It does not have any angles, it does not have any qualities. Some people would argue even if 0 is a number, right? There is an active argument which says whether 0 is a number or not, right? It does not interfere with any other numbers. If you see a number line or origin, it always sits at the origin, but it is not an integer, it is not a prime number. I mean, none of the things that you can sort numbers into, 0 doesn't qualify into any of those numbers, except we can say that, okay, it's a whole number. But yeah, it does not interfere with any other numbers, and it is independent of other numbers. It doesn't increase, it doesn't add value to any other numbers. 0, you add into any number, it doesn't change its value. You subtract 0 from any number, it doesn't change any value. You add it with itself, You subtract it with itself, it's zero. It stays the same, it doesn't change. It doesn't participate in any way, except the fact that you can use it anywhere. You can use it in conjunction with any of the numbers and it just changes the value of the number, but value of 0 as itself does not change at all. So Purusha, somewhere I feel that there are some parallels here with the number 0, or even the concept of infinity if we talk about. Then he says, goes ahead and he asks the second question. The Brahmana asks the second question. Okay, I understand all the characteristics, but why do you call it Purusha? You can give it any other name. Why Purusha? Then he says, or we call it also Atma. So why name Purusha? And Kapila Muni says, because it's ancient. Nobody knows what is the beginning of Purusha. In Prakriti, you can point out the beginning of when Buddhi has started, or what Sattva, Rajas Guna, Tamas Guna, how they are in a state of equilibrium under the Avyakta, and how Tanmatras are originated and how senses are originated. You have no such understanding of Purusha, where it came from. It is without the beginning, and it is something that repossesses the body. And there is a word for it in Sanskrit. We call it Purishayanat. So it's Purana, and it has a quality of repossessing the body, Purishayanat. And it is, Purusha is towards which the highest affection is entertained. Highest affection means Purohitaha. It's entertained. All this is happening is for the pleasure or pain or delusion of Purusha. Everything is happening for his sake, whatever is Prakriti doing. And that's why we call it Purusha. Yeah? And he says, okay, I get it, I understand it, but then he goes on with every characteristics. Why is Purusha? And he goes on questioning every single quality. He says, why it is Anadi? Tell me, why it is Anadi? And Kapila Muni says it's Anadi because it has neither beginning nor middle nor end. You can't figure out where it started and where it is going to end. That's why we call it Anadi. Why Sukshma? Why subtle? Why Purusha is so subtle? You say it's omnipresent, but you also say it's subtle. And then Kapila Muni says, because first of all, you cannot define it into parts. Purusha is a singular entity. You cannot cut it into parts. It is not made up of parts. It is as small as Paramanu, but it is so small, even smaller than that, because it is capable of transcending senses. That's why it has to, and something that is capable of transcending senses has to be extremely subtle. That's why it is Sukshma. Why then if it is so Sukshma, then why it is omnipresent? Why it is Sarva Agataha? And then Kapila Muni says, because Purusha comes in relation with all. Every single vibration, change, transformation, inactivity, activity, everything in between, Purusha comes in relation with all. And its sphere, it covers, it is boundless as the sky. I mean, sky is one of the way of expressing, but it is boundless. Everywhere there it's happening, Purusha is present. And it comes in direct relation. That's why it is omnipresent. Okay, fine. I understood why it is Anadi, why it is Sukshma, why it is without beginning, why it is so subtle, why it is omnipresent. But why Chetana? Why you say that it is intelligent? I don't see it. It doesn't react in any way. You say, why? How do you know it's intelligent? And he says that there are these qualities, pleasure, pain, delusion. Basically, these are the qualities that we experience at this level. This is the first level of your 5 gross element, where you have Akash, Vayu, Tej, Apa and Prithvi, ether, air, fire, water and earth. This is the first instance where we start feeling that this is very pleasurable. This is not good, this is very painful, or it's neutral. Before that thought doesn't exist. But Purusha, we say it is intelligent, we say it is Chetana, because Purusha is capable of clearly seeing this pleasure, this pain, and this delusion. It completely sees it, it understands it very clearly. There is no, if it is delusion, it can see it, it doesn't mix it with anybody else. That is the quality of intelligence. That's why we say that it has a Chetana. And it's not given by somebody, it comes with, Purusha comes with it. It's the quality, one of the qualities of Purusha. But then you say that it is without qualities. The next you say it's Aguna. Why you say it is Aguna? You just define Chetana to me. He says, Kapila Muni says it's Aguna because neither of the qualities, goodness, passion or darkness, Sattva, Rajas or Tamas, are in it. It does not have any of these in it. It doesn't have elements of Sattva, Rajas or Tamas in it. It can see it clearly, it discerns it, but it is not affected by it. Yeah? It doesn't become part of it, it doesn't get mixed up with it, it's indifferent from it. That's why Aguna. Okay, then why eternal? Because it's going through so much transformation. Yeah? Then why it is eternal? Why do you say that it is Nitya? Because Kapila Muni says, though it is witnessing all the transformation, it is not produced, it's not made, it doesn't transform Purusha. Purusha exists. It is not produced by any of these transformation. That's why it's eternal. Why it is spectator? Why it is drashta? And then Kapila Muni says, because it apprehends the modifications which productive nature undergoes. That means Prakriti and all the other tattvas, whatever they are doing, it witnesses everything. It is capable, it's omnipresent, and it is so subtle at the same time that every manifestation that has been undergoing, Purusha is observing it, and not just observing, it's consciously observing it, it's a conscious force, so it's observing it with intellect, with Chetana. Why Bhokta? Why enjoyer? And he says it discerns the pleasure. There is a pleasure, he identifies it, and it's a pleasure. So there is a pain, and he identifies it's a pain through its possession of intelligence. Right? But it don't mix it up with the thought that, oh, if there is a pleasure, then Purusha is happy, and if it is sad, Purusha is sad. No. It only reflects what is happening. It is indifferent from it. That's why the next quality, it is akarta. It is not an agent. Because it is so udasina, it is indifferent and devoid of qualities. Even the thing is pleasure, he only identifies it as a pleasure. It doesn't give him pleasure or it doesn't give him pain, or it doesn't put him in delusion. That's why he is akarta. He does not contribute in any way. But he is kshetravida. He is knower of the body. He repossesses the body, and he is conscious enough that he is completely aware of where he is. That is the quality of kshetravida, knower of the body. Then why it is pure? If it is sitting in the midst of so much hullabaloo, so much is happening, why do you say, how can it stay pure? Why do you call it a pure? And he says, because in the soul there are neither good actions or bad actions. It's only on a superficial level. And the last he asks, why it is aprasava dharmi? Then if it is so perfect, if Purusha is so perfect, why it doesn't want to produce? That would make life very easy. Then Kapila Muni says, it is seedless. That is to say, it does not give rise to anything. That is not what Purusha is here for. Purusha is not there to add into something that Prakriti is doing. That is not, he only observes. Now here I would like to take some time to read where Sri Aurobindo mentions about these qualities. Akarta. Akarta means not an agent. And Sri Aurobindo says, Prakriti able to dominate Purusha and cloud its freedom and power. So Prakriti completely dominates Purusha, it clouds its freedom and power, reducing it to witness and recipient of her forms and actions. Purusha able to return to its separate existence, and that's a very important statement. Purusha able to return to its separate existence and abide in a free self-sovereignty by rejection of her original overclouding material principle. That means she is there dancing with all the sattva, rajas and tamas. He reflects it, but he does not participate in it. He doesn't get associated with it, or he doesn't indulge in it. He is able to keep himself, or he is able to manifest his own separate existence, yet he comes in relation with all. Yeah. So that is the quality of Purusha. And about being udasina, about being indifferent, Sri Aurobindo says, action has no such effect on the spiritual person. Yeah. So he is talking about the psychic being in a human, or Purusha, or on the psychic entity within us. It binds or limits only the surface constructed personality. So anything that you feel that you do good or bad, it's only on your constructed personality. It is the consequence of that, not your Atma, your Purusha, or yourself. Yeah. So with these two. And why it is aprasavadharmi? It says, when the Purusha learns not to identify himself, then Prakriti begins to fall away from its impulse of movement and returns towards the equilibrium and rest. That is one of the reasons why Purusha chose to be non-contributing or non-producing agent, because he is witnessing and he lets Prakriti finish everything that she is doing, and when he is absolutely not participating, Prakriti returns back to her state of equilibrium, which we started with, the state before the cosmic vibration. That's the goal, that's the motive. So in a way they are kind of counterparts of each other. They also try to overcome each other, but they also help each other out, right? There is nothing common between Purusha and Prakriti. About Chetana, Sri Aurobindo says in the Passive and Active Brahman, he says the Sankhya philosophy, which taught that the Purusha or the conscious soul is a passive, inactive, immutable entity. Prakriti or the nature soul, including even the mind and the understanding, active, mutable, mechanical, but reflected in the Purusha, which identifies itself with what is reflected in it and lends to it its own light of consciousness. So, Prakriti is capable of creating fire, but the fire, the Chetana of the fire is Purusha. Prakriti is not capable of giving that Chetana. So, Prakriti gives a fire, but the fire is reflected in Purusha, but Purusha, it reflects with the consciousness of Purusha, So it's somewhere, it's like you're doing everything. It's a part of me who is giving this whole scenario, constructing it, but it's also a part of me which is witnessing me giving it. So that's the Purusha within me. Yeah, non-participating agent. So there are multiple possibilities this session can go through, but every possibility is Purusha is able to witness, which is beyond the my Prakriti limitations, material limitations. Yes. Why Purusha is Bhokta? Purusha knows and is still and inactive. He contains the action of Prakriti within his consciousness and knowledge and enjoys it. So he talks about a lot of things. So if you want this, I have this collection from 3 books. I could only, where Sri Aurobindo talks about life divine, about Sankhya philosophy in Life Divine, Letters of Yoga and Synthesis of Yoga. And I have collected this over here. So if you want soft copy, you can leave your email with me and I'll send you the soft copy. Or if you want the printed version, then then you can note your name down and I can leave it after a couple of days in front at the reception of Savitri Bhavan. Let me know whatever, if you wish to have this. Now what are the, so he understands all the qualities and he says what are the other names that we call Purusha? And Kapila Muni says we call it Purusha, that means the repossessor or reposer in the body. We call it Atma, self. We call it Puman, the male. We also call Purusha Pungunaha Jantu Jivaha, that which super adds the quality of reason to mere animal life. Kshetrajna, knower of the body. Naraha, male. Kavihi, poet. Brahma, deity. Aksharaha, indestructible. Pranaha, vital air. Without pranaha, you are just a lump of unconscious matter. So, Purusha, these are the synonyms of Purusha which are used in different occasions. Yeah. Now, this causes confusion, little bit confusion. He is convinced of everything, but Brahmana is still not convinced by the fact that Purusha is not an agent. It doesn't contribute in any way. So he goes and he asks Kapila, he says, is the soul an agent or not an agent? What is it? Tell me. Give me something to understand, because I feel it's an agent. It clearly looks like it's an agent. It's part of everything. How is it not an agent? And Kapila Muni says, if soul was an agent, let's think of a scenario that if soul was an agent, would it only do good or right actions? It would be very easy, because Purusha is also another Sanskrit name for that is Antaratma. We call it Atma, right? And the divine being, we call it Paramatma, the divine, the supreme being, right? So, if we have to explain it in simple terms, it's like a speck of that supreme being that is repossessing this body. And the whole life is the struggle of this Antaratma going back to the Paramatma, going and dissolving back into the divine, isn't it? If Purusha is an agent, the whole thing he will do, and he is very clear, he is very intelligent, the only thing that he would do is the exact right steps to dissolve back into the divine, right? That would be very easy. Then what is the use of Prakriti? Then why to have this material unconscious counterpart, right? There was no need for it, right? So basically, to be an agent, to cause an action, we have to understand 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas, and Kapila Muni talks a bit about it. Today we will just have an introduction of these 3 gunas. Next month, not in June, July, at the end of last Saturday of July, we will talk in detail about the 3 gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. But today let me just define the qualities of what is sattva, rajas and tamas. Sattva is basically the quality of kindness or virtue, or when you think before you say something, when you evaluate and should you be saying, is this the right thing to say or do, it gives you also freedom from enmity. You don't have malice for anybody in your heart, or you try to do the right thing, you try to gain the knowledge for the sake of attainment, right, for the moksha, and you have a quality to judge things correctly in front of you. That is the quality of sattvic or sattva guna. Rajas guna is the quality of passion. So rajas is basically quality of passion, anger, quality of greed, quality of reproaching others, quality of extreme sternness, quality of discontent. Then tamas is a quality of madness, intoxication or lassitude, atheism or addiction to women or drowsiness, or sloth or worthlessness or impurity. Yeah? Sometimes I wonder why do we have to have these negative qualities? But it's a way of balancing the whole thing. Na? Without tamas and rajas, sattva would just wander in too much goodness, which is also not the purpose of it. Yeah, purpose is to have balance of these three. Now Kapila Muni says all actions that you do. Now if we think and retrospect about all the actions that we have done so far, you can trace it all back to the combination of sattva, rajas and tamas. Yeah. It happened probably because of dominance of sattva, or you did some actions because of dominance of rajas, or you did some actions because of dominance of tamas. But basically, which just means that it's an agency. So you can trace it back to the agency that is established in nature. But soul, it discerns those three qualities. Soul is akarta, agunaha. It does not have all these qualities. That's why you cannot, this trace doesn't come back to the Purusha. And that's why you cannot say, hence proved, as you say in mathematics, that you cannot say that it is an agent. But through the lenses of passion and delusion, sometimes it does happen, which is we can call it a wrong view or inaccurate view. Soul foolishly imagines that I am the agent. All this was made by me. This is mine. Sometimes it does that, and this view can be understood as ego. Yeah? Ego is like that dirty or tainted glass through which soul is observing. And sometimes he feels, I did that. Am I the agent? It says in Bhagavad Gita, if you see 3rd Adhyaya, Sri Krishna says, actions are affected by qualities of nature. According to their share. So whatever is the share of quality you have within you, you act. The soul, diluted by the conceit of individuality, imagines I am the agent. In reality, soul, even while remaining in the body, neither acts nor is affected. That's the truth. That's the real truth. I was a little off topic. Before we go to one of the very important topics, I was just watching this movie, which is a very recent movie on Netflix. I don't know if you have seen. Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Any one of you have seen it? No? And there, one of the characters, he is philosopher. I mean, he loves learning about philosophy and talking about philosophy. And he's convincing his girlfriend not to go and leave Paris. And he says, there is one very important philosopher in France. His name is Sartre? Sartre. Not Socrates. Sartre. Jean-Paul Sartre. Yeah. He is the existentialist. Yeah. And he defines, I think I have written it somewhere here. I forgive me if I don't pronounce it correct. It says we always find ourselves conflicted between anthro-oso, that is for itself, which is consciousness, and anthroporso, in itself, which is the physical facts, right? So it comes very closely to this point of view of delusion that we are talking about. Sometimes this Purusha imagining that I am the agent. Am I the agent? Did I do this? Did I cause this? Yes. So, but ultimately it's not, because it is devoid of all this. It does not, if you do something good and if you're trying to feel that I'm going to try and impress Purusha and I'll impress divine, that's one of the reasons why people say that there is no point in going in the temple and impressing the god. Because if Purusha is devoid of all this, then there is no point in, oh, I'll do good all my life. And if you say divine, the good actions and the bad actions, that segregation does not exist there, Then he says, okay, very interesting, but I have one last question. And Kapila Muni says, what is it? And he says, is Purusha one or many? Is there only one Purusha, or there are so many Purushas? And Kapila Muni says, actually, according to Sankhya philosophy, there are some teachers of Sankhya philosophy. I've written it here. Kapila Muni, Asuri, and Panchashila, Shikha, and Patanjali. We all know about Patanjali through Patanjali Yoga, and Kapila Muni, whose Sankhya philosophy we are discussing. They have mentioned Purusha as many. But Vedanta Vedin, which are the teachers of Vedantas, they, like Harihara, Hiranyagarbha, Vyasa, they define Purusha as one. Right? So there is a conflict here, that some people say that Purusha is many, some is one. We will get into that. Now, actually, Kapila Muni says, okay, if Purusha is one, let's say, now Prakriti is going through all these different vibrations, all these different transformations, different for every, since because of Ahankara, we'll say individual, if we consider the aspect of individuality, then different for you, everything that is happening, the transformation at different stages of your life is different for everybody, right? So, it has to be reflected upon, right? Every single nuance that is changing, it has to be reflected upon. So Kapila Muni says, Purusha is this whole universe. The soul exists in the whole universe. All that has been and all that is to be, and the Lord of immortality. Everywhere. So Purusha identifies with all of this. It alone is fire, it is the sun, it is the air, it is the moon, it alone is pure, it is in the vast one, it is the vast one, it is the waters, it is the Lord of creatures, it alone is the true nectar of immortality, it is liberation, it is ultimate goal, it is indestructible, it is the glory of the sun, it is beyond which there is nothing else. It is than which is neither more recent or more ancient at the same time. So you see itself, there is so much diverse expression here, and he goes on saying the multiplicity of Purusha, and he says according to Sankhya, he says Purusha is many. He doesn't say Purusha are many. He says Purusha is many. The multiplicity of Purusha is proved by diversity in conditions of pain, pleasure, delusion, mixture of race, purity of race, soundness of organs, birth and death, by the work they do, shrama, or by caste. So if there is so much diversity in everything, then every single thing has to be reflected, and Purusha is the one who is reflecting it at the same time. Now it can be compared by two examples. One example is Sri Krishna Lila, which is, there is this, help me here, what do you call it, where they are playing Dandiya and all the Gopikas want to play with Krishna at the same time. Maharas, there is a ras, right? So all the gopis want to dance with Krishna, but Krishna is only one, Yeah? And then, but the ras happens where every gopi is dancing with Krishna. Now, every gopi has a unique way of dancing, as Krishna is dancing with each one of them. That is the symbolism of the multiplicity of Purusha. That is one symbolism. Any temple that you go in India or any place of worship where the whole halabalu is representation of Prakriti, the mandap and the gopuram and the, everything, the north side, east side, west side, navagraha, everything is laid out, but then the deity, the God itself sits within at the center, which is the symbol of Purusha. Right? And one example of multiplicity of Purusha is present here in Auroville, Matra Mandir. Matra Mandir is a symbol, it's a symbolism. And I can show you here, you see here back in this picture, the globe is reflecting the colors of the sky. And each disc is, that is the symbolism of multiplicity of Purusha. So every single disc is reflecting the colors of the sky, the Prakriti, but yet it is one. Yeah? That's why Purusha is many. It's not Purusha are many. It's not, yeah? Am I confusing you? No, right? So, according to Sankhya, Purusha is many. So, a lot of, one more shlok actually I teach to my students, and I think it comes from, I don't remember, it's one of the Isha Upanishad, I'm not sure, or Taittiriya, one of these probably. The shlok goes like this: Yatha suryasya pratibimbaha ekah shante jale bahavaschale. That means just like the reflection of sun in a still water is one, but if the water has waves, then in each change of wave or its small portion of water, you see a reflection of sun. So there are many suns on the water, right? Yatha suryasya pratibimbaha ekah shante jale bahavaschale satyah suryaha. Surya is the truth. Satyah pratibimbaha, reflection is also the truth. Satah suryasya nasa swapnaha satah prakashastu saha. Even the light that reflects it all is the truth. So none of this is a delusion. Sun is true. Each and every reflection of the sun is true. And if both of them are true, then the light that connects them both is also true. Right? And that is again the multiplicity of Purusha. Yeah? So basically, in essence, have we done? Would like to read one last passage to you before we conclude. So Kapila Muni says that Purusha is firm as a tree and it remains in heaven. With soul, with that soul, all this is filled everywhere. On all sides are the hands, feet, eyes, heads and faces of that soul tree. And then it stands embracing all, assuming the aspect of all organs and qualities, though devoid of all the qualities. The Lord and ruler of all, the great refuge of all, that which altogether is all the principle, is every soul, is the source of all. And he goes on explaining the soul, and then he says at the end of it, it says, some speak of soul as several, seeking that knowledge and other mental states are observable. So he's saying, just like some of them are happy and some of them are sad, and soul is able to differentiate and identify it separately, but it is same for the worm and the insect. the dog, an outcast, an elephant. So it's basically like there are different types of beads that exist, and he compares soul or Purusha to this thread which connects all of them to make an ornament. So soul, it's the one for everybody, but yet it is independent for everybody. So here we dissolve the conflict, where some people, where Vedantic Vedin says that soul is just one, where Sankhya teachers say that souls are many. So the comparison, it says that just as a thread may pass through golden beads and again in like manner through pearls, gems, coral or earthen beads or silver, so this soul is to be regarded as remaining everywhere one, in cows, men, elephants, deer, etc. Right? So basically there is a universality in diversity. Sri Aurobindo says when he talks about Maya, Prakriti and Shakti in the Life Divine One, he says the Sankhya philosophy stresses this personal aspect, makes the Purusha many, plural, and assigns universality to nature. In this view, each soul is an independent existence, although all souls experience a common universal nature. It's like even if you don't know a language, and if you hear a piece of music, you can connect with it on emotional level, yet there is such huge diversity in the construction of the music itself, but it is capable of emoting the similar emotions across the universe, across the globe. It also says that Purusha, pervading the conscious extension of his being, present at every point of himself as well as in his totality, inhabiting every form, regards the whole as if separately from each of the standpoints he has taken. He views and governs the relations of each soul form of himself with other soul forms from the standpoint of will and knowledge appropriate to each particular form. And that's the multiplicity of Purusha, which is first defined in the Sankhya philosophy by Kapila. So we are reaching at the end of it. Basically, in essence, we are coming back to the first question, where we were talking about the cosmic vibration, where we were talking about the spandana that happened, which caused the inequilibrium in Prakriti, right? So Prakriti without Purusha is in the state of equilibrium. It is the proximity of Purusha which causes the spandana. In one of the Sankhya philosophy books, Sankhya Karika, it says that when Prakriti is not in the proximity with immutable Purusha or Chit Shakti, which is the conscious ability, then its three gunas are unmanifested and it's in the state of equilibrium, but it is also in the state of unmanifested potential, right? It is the proximity with its immutable or unchanging Purusha which causes the spandana, the first cosmic vibration, right? So that's so far about the Purusha. Any doubts, questions, if you guys want to ask?
So you mentioned that neither Prakriti nor Purusha is in and of itself an agent. They're both non doers, or by agency, if you mean that. But I think Sri Aurobindo touches on this point of the spirit and the, I guess you call it the universal spirit as realizing itself through its actions, and that statement implies that there's some sort of agent at play, right? The universe is realizing itself means there's some sort of action. So how do you marry these concepts of there's no agent in either Prakriti or Purusha, if there has to be some sort of agent that's doing these actions.
No, Prakriti is definitely, we cannot define it, Prakriti is not an agent. Prakriti is the one that is acting upon, it's the capable of action. Purusha is not capable of action, he is a karta. But it is for the sake of Purusha that Prakriti acts. Yeah? And that's the transformation happen. Without Prakriti, Purusha cannot achieve the goal. The goal is to go back to the divine self, and Prakriti is the
vessel,
is the instrument. And without Purusha, Prakriti is unknower of its own potential. It's unaware of itself. So they are counterparts. There is nothing common in them, but without each other, it's the harmonious existence of both of them. Prakriti being in equilibrium while Purusha is there is the state of liberation, probably. And that is something which we are trying to attain through evolution. That's the effort, that's the end goal, and that's the,
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello ma'am, my name is Debashish. So I was just fascinated by that example that you gave of the light coming from the sun, and it is falling on a still lake of water, maybe a pond of water, and then there is a reflection of the sun on the water. When there are no ripples on the water, then we only see one circular sun. But when there are ripples and when there are waves, then we see many reflections of the sun. So I'm just trying to understand, putting that in the context of us, human beings, because at the end of the day, all this philosophy is for us. So my first question is, in all of the Sankhya philosophy that you just explained of Purusha and Prakriti, where am I as a human being fitting in this, and what am I getting out of it? First of all, that is my very basic question. And one step further to that question is, what I understand is, if there are no ripples in the water, ripples in the water to me signifies Prakriti. Ripples means many forms, many manifestations. And Prakriti, as we see and as we experience, is many forms and many manifestations. So, ripple can be there or cannot be there in the water. So, depending on whether there is ripple in the water or not, I will perceive the sun accordingly. So, for example, if I think myself as the plain water, my consciousness, so if there is no ripple in my consciousness, if there are no thoughts and no emotions flowing in my consciousness, then I will see everything as one.
Yeah.
Then there is no Prakriti for me. Prakriti is not there. And that is the pure state of consciousness, or Purusha, as you are saying. If there is ripple in my mind and my consciousness, as thoughts and emotions, is too much of that movement going on in me, then I will perceive the world like that. Then I have entered the Prakriti. So I think what you said, that Prakriti is different and Purusha is different, I understand that. It depends on my state, which state I am in. I can be in the Prakriti state, or I could be in the Purusha state. If I am in the Purusha state, then I perceive everything as Purusha. As you said, Purusha is everywhere. But I can only perceive that state when I am Purusha. I am in that state. Then there is no ripple in my head. But if there is ripple in my head and I am completely involved in my thinking and my actions and the doer, if I become the doer, then there is only Prakriti for me. Is my understanding correct?
Yeah. See, the thing is, Sankhya philosophy talks about dualism. Now, I would like to counter question you with your first question. What did you say? You wanted to know if the Purusha is, if the Surya is reflecting in the water. What was your first question?
First question was, who am I in this whole hierarchy?
Who am I? So
and
you
what am I?
You are the unique state of transformation at this time and space, where all of us are walking uniformly towards in unity towards the state of evolution, and you are an integral part of it, and you are the unique manifestation of Prakriti with a unique Purusha with itself. Yeah. Though we all have the same uniform Purusha, you can identify your Purusha as a unique one, though it's uniform and universal to all of us. So you are Purusha and Prakriti, you are not less or more than. Yeah? Now I want to counter question you. Here we understood as Surya being the Purusha and water being the Prakriti. But I can counter question water being the Purusha because it's the one reflecting the Surya, and Surya being the Prakriti because it's the one shining and going through the motions, and water is just reflecting the sun. So there is Purusha and Prakriti in everything. Purusha is the non-material, metaphysical, like what do you call it? The intellect, conscious counterpart. Whereas the Prakriti of the same thing is the material counterpart, unconscious counterpart. Yeah. So if I say is Purusha male, then there is no Purusha in me because I am a female? No. If we say, so basically if we say women give birth, right? But are we capable of generating a baby on our own in a womb? No. The first birth happens within Purusha. So that's Prakriti in you. Where I am the one who is only going to nurture something that already exists, right? And I don't contribute. I can't do anything when the baby is forming in my womb. I can only witness the changes. That is the Purusha in me, right? So there is dualism. We live in the world of dualism. That dualism we can never escape from, and that liberation is what we strive for. Liberation from the dualism. So basically we have to trace back. And how is the question? And that's why the mathematics. Because mathematics, now in mathematics there is a huge study, we call it the calculus. Calculus is taught at the level of college. When you are after 12th standard, if you are going in mechanical and engineering, then they teach you calculus. And there are two big topics in calculus. One is integrals and one is differentiation. The whole change that Prakriti undergoes is the study of differentiation. What change happened in this when this changes? What change? And that's all the differentiation is. Prakriti is, the study of differentiation is understanding Prakriti in mathematical form. Whereas integration is, and basically all this is functions. Like if we put these functions basically in mathematics are machines. You put something and you produce some output. And there are multiple types of functions and you combine them together. Right? So, what we are talking about is something beyond all of this. But in order to go beyond all of this, first you need to know what is this. And that is the whole attempt of these sessions. It is the attempt to know Prakriti, and Prakriti, this is only we have defined. We have not even talked about half of it. Now that we have defined Purusha and Prakriti, we will go in detail with what are the Trigunas. I quickly would like to show you the slide of the aphorism of Kapila. Yeah. So we talked about the 8 producers, Prakriti. we talked about 16 productions, Vikara, which are written on the board, and today we talked about Purusha. Then we were going to talk about 3 gunas, triad of qualities. Then we are going to talk about development or sanchara and pratisanchara. That means sanchara is, it's like taking the gross, let's say, just for our basic understanding, taking the gross elements and forming something, developing something. Pratisanchara is opposite of that, giving it back to where it has come from, probably, yeah, or reabsorption into, you know. Then what is Adhyatma? What are the ministers of soul? What are the provinces of organ? Adibhuta. What are the Adidaiva? Yeah, this, if you understand these 3, Adhyatma, Adibhuta and Adidaivata, then you will understand the answer for your second question, right? So where do I stand in all of this? And second question was that how do I, you know, how do I, then Prakriti doesn't exist, right? You said if I come in the state of equilibrium, then Prakriti doesn't exist. No, Prakriti exists in the state of Avyakta, equilibrium. That's the first stage. That's where you have to go. And divine is even beyond that. Yeah. So maybe we'll be able to make some connections at this stage when we understand Adhyatma, Adibhuta and Adidevata. This we will learn simultaneously. And what are the Adibuddhi? What are the Vayus? What are the Karma Atmanas? What are the Asaktis? You need to understand what are the ignorance and what are the disabilities. What are the radical facts? What is Anugraha Sarga, Bhuta Sarga, Dhatu Santharga? What are the bondages? 3 types of bondages that we have. What are the liberation, mokshas? 3 types of mokshas, 3 folds of mokshas. What are the 3 folds of proofs, pramanas? And what is the 3-fold of pain, dukkha? And these 25 tattvas is just we are only defining the process of involution and the whole existentialism here. And then it's your own journey to find in my understanding, I feel that because Purusha is plural, it's many. So there, Sri Aurobindo talks about many Purushas. There is Annamaya Purusha and Manomaya Purusha and, you know, Pranamaya Purusha. So everybody, in a vital being, Purusha is again Pradhana, in physical being, mental being, you know, psychic being. And when all of this is in alignment, and that's why Mother talks about the exactitude of senses. She says that you have to train your vital, you have to perfect your body in order to listen to what the vital and mental needs to, because what physical body is like a horse, you know, it will do what you tell it to do. But it's the mind and the vital, they need to be clear about what you should tell. The exactitude of sense will separate Purusha from this delusion or imagination that Purusha is being an agent. Then you will understand the difference between me doing it as a soul or me doing it as my created outer personality. You will realize that you two are separate entities, and you always witness that, it is there, right? Sometimes that happens as a child. I always had this moment in a mirror that I see myself but I don't identify myself as this form, right? I don't know if it happened to any one of you, but I'm sure, yeah. And because the form changes every few years, right? But you don't change, you still stay the same as you were. So that is the eternal aspect of you, and that is you, right? But this is also you, this is also a truth, but it's the truth, because delusion is also a part of Prakriti. So the attempt is not rejecting Prakriti. Sri Aurobindo says you can't reject good, bad and delusion and leave it and liberate. No, that's not the goal. It's along with all of them. It's the acceptance of everything. Yeah. That's the goal, that's the ultimate. We have to figure out the way of how to do that. Krishna? No question. So, we had 2 sessions so far. This is the 3rd, and I don't know how long it's going to go. We will talk about all these till 3 folds of pain, and because once we define all this, then we should be able to go with. We will go in the works of mathematicians. One of the mathematicians that I'm really looking to have session on is Ramanujan, because he really talks, even algebra, he says it's not, an expression is not an expression if it doesn't express the thought of a divine being or a God, you know. And what does he mean of that? So for him, so his works are, it would be really interesting to see his works through the lens of Sri Aurobindo and spiritualism and philosophy and Sankhya philosophy, especially. It would be nice to connect Kapila Muni and Ramanujan. Then we will talk about all the fathers of differentiation. You know, there are 4 mathematicians. I think there is Faraday, there is Gauss, and 2 more I don't remember. So these 4 mathematicians we will see for sure. I don't know how many more. So that will be the end of this session, but I don't know how long it's going to go. It's like we meet 1 hour once a month. So it's very vast, yes. So, yeah. If we don't have any questions, should we conclude or? Yeah? Thank you for coming.